Well, I think that the mental illness aspect was obvious, but it was also obvious that in this state, the question is whether he knew what he was doing was wrong, and he clearly knew that it was wrong. And this case involved kids that could have been the children of anybody that has children in college. And so to us it was a tragedy not just for the SPU and for the individual victims, but for the community at large, that we were invaded by this sort of sensibility, and hope that it will never happen again.
Kristen, what's your guess? It didn't take that long, so what do you think helped them come to this verdict?
I think it was actually quite straightforward case. So it was one issue and one issue only, and that is, did he know it was wrong? So I imagine that they could zero in on that. The confession tape that Detective Cooper took was crucial in that regard, because it was within hours of the shooting.
And what about that phone conversation between him and his brother?
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it? That was a couple months afterwards, and I think that it showed that he was comfortable in jail and comfortable with what he did.
The jurors asked to watch that tape yesterday. Do you know if they watched the whole thing?
Don't know.
You're waiting to find that out, I'm sure.
Maybe. They don't have to tell us anything, so maybe they did. It wouldn't surprise me.
Can you speak to what this conviction means for, we're seeing these mass shootings across the country, and I think you said something in your closing argument about, the impact it has on the community. But does this send a message at all, do you think?
Well, unfortunately, publicity is one of the worst things that can happen in these cases, and I know that it's necessary and I understand it, but it makes it worse for them, because it is part of what feeds the fury, is the need to be seen and to believe that people understand the fury and the hatred that they have. Every school shooter that we're familiar with has exactly the same story, which is hatred against the world. And that's what Aaron Ibarra had. And when he said that he identified with Eric Harris, that was completely accurate, because that's what we've seen of school shooters. It's just most of them don't live to tell the tale. Most of them die of their own hand, and so this is quite unusual.
Kristen, is there something to be learned from testifying, from hearing from prosecuting a school shooter? Because, we've been critiqued for stringing this whole thing, and the one thing that we've always said was, we're hearing from somebody who had planned this for years. What do you hope that people who paid attention to all the testimony in this might learn about the possible prevention of such a thing in the future?
I actually think it's important, especially the fact that he testified, highly unusual in an insanity case. It allows us to get inside his head a little bit. And I know from personal experience, knowing people in higher education, that this is something that they were watching very carefully, because they want to know how to prevent it in the future. And it's something, like I said, that you hope that never invades your school, your city, your children. But the reality is that it does, and we need to be prepared for it and hope that it stops.
Question for you or Jessica. When he changed that motive on the stand and brought up the whole God thing, as a prosecutor, were you like, oh my gosh, is this something good? Or were you like, from left field, how are we going to do damage control? What was your mindset at that time?
I think it just made it clear he wasn't so checked out from reality that he didn't understand what was going on, and that he understood he was trying to help himself here. He wasn't quite as out of it as defense was trying to portray him. So in that way, I think it was helpful.
So strategic for him, possibly.
I think it was an attempt to be strategic, yes.
What did you think?
He may believe it. It's possible. I mean, with a guy like that, maybe he believes it by now, 2 years into it, who knows. But when a defendant testifies, you never know what they're going to say, because you don't have to be told what they're going to say. So we didn't know exactly how it was going to come out. We knew that there was probably going to be something to do with the DF at command, but I don't think anyone expected to see what it was like when he started talking about it happening, and you got a sense of what it was like to be there.